Welcome back. And we are going to just spend a few minutes right now talking about a review over Chapter 2 and some of the things that we learned there. And then at the very end, we're going to talk a little bit about how we can start applying the principles that we're learning. Because for most of you, these are very different kind of principles. And so we want you to be really clear on how to apply these so that you can start moving more towards your purpose and a very satisfying quality of life. So let me get my glasses on, and I've got some notes for you. Okay, so Chapter 2, we talked about the growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset actually means that you're actively pursuing intentional growth in your thinking. And this means that you have to change your thinking. Remember life lesson number 2, if I change what I think, I'll change what I see and do. And so we realize that our behavior will follow our thoughts. And so it's really important to go ahead and really agree with your own mind, if you will, that you want to change your thinking. And that has to happen. Now, this is going to be challenging for some of you who have some deeply entrenched views about their life and about how they're supposed to live their life. And sometimes people really hang on to those really more for security because it helps them to feel safe. And what I want you to do during this course is to actually dispense those. Just shelf those for a while. Just set them to the side. Doesn't mean you've abandoned them, but what it does mean is that you're going to put them aside. You're going to walk into this learning experience with a view that you want to make some improvements, not just in your life, because keep in mind, when you change for the better, when you invest in yourself, you're actually creating a much healthier environment for the people that you work with or your family. And so you want those relationships to receive a benefit from the development that you're going through, because it's likely that they'll say, hey, what's going on with you? How come you're changing? I see that some really wonderful things are happening with you. And then you get an opportunity to share with them what you're doing as well. And so that's really what we're looking for. All right, and so we talked about poverty. Okay, now poverty, we came to the conclusion, isn't just about a lower economic position. Poverty can happen in any part of your life. It can happen in your relationships, and we actually see that a lot. It can happen in your job. It can happen with your attitude. It can happen with even the kind of entertainment that you spend your time with, because that if it's not building into you, you always have to be cautious. It could easily be a poverty mindset where it's taking away from you. Because remember, poverty is about loss and lack. And we want to address it throughout this course as loss and lack. Okay, so we want to make sure that you're becoming more aware of areas in your life that you may have some poverty, because poverty will prevent you from living in a growth mindset. And so it's really important that you're honest with yourself and you really, do some hard work at what kind of relationships that you have in your life that might be impairing your ability to move into the growth mindset. All right, now the biggie, one of my favorites, which I think I told you yesterday was my favorite, was talking about the two models. We have the benefits model and we have the investment model. Now the benefits model, you will never find purpose in the benefits model. It is a blaming others model. There is no growth mindset with that, because other people are controlling you and they're making decisions for you. And so you're not in a growth mindset, you're just there. And so additionally, with the benefits model, I should point out, there's limited or no learning. And that's really important for you to take note of. Limited to no learning. And so the investment model is very different, and we'll discuss that here in a moment. And it also has, the benefits model also has a past orientation. And so typically, when somebody's in the benefits model, because they'll make reference a lot about what happened in their past. Do you remember what happened here? And it just totally destroyed my life, and I've just never been able to recover from that. Or maybe they won't even admit not being able to recover from it, but you can see they're not making any headway. The investment model works in the opposite. That's where we find our purpose, and that's where we can sustain it. It has the growth mindset. People with a growth mindset are always looking for ways to invest in their mind and in their life so that they can become better, they can mature, so they can attain self-actualization, because 1% of the world has actually done that. And so we want to start moving towards that 1%. Of course, I mentioned it's also where our purpose is. And the person in the investment model, they take responsibility for their life. They don't blame other people. They say, look, I'm here because I clearly made decisions along the way, whether I felt pressured or not. I still have to own my own decisions, and I have to take full responsibility of my life. And so it has a future orientation, because that's where hope is. Hope is always in the future. It's always encouraging us to move forward, always encouraging us to say there's a better day coming if we invest in it. And so we need to invest, and we invest by applying the things that we're now learning. Because remember, what's the most important thing? What I learned. And so as you're investing, that means you're in the investment model, you're starting to clear out some of the clutter and some of the problems that have held you back throughout these years, maybe in some cases, maybe a whole lifetime. Okay, so how do we apply these principles? Well, the very first thing we want to apply is, we just talked about this yesterday, what's the fundamental rule for change? I'll give you a second to think about it. Try to remember. It's positive thinking. And so what we know in positive psychology is that it actually changes the composition of our brain. And there's a lot of research out there now that's talking about the importance of being a positive person, not artificial, where you just walk around saying, oh, I'm great, everything's fine, life is wonderful, when in your heart of hearts, you know something's missing. And so the 5-10 principle will actually help to dislodge some of those negative thoughts, and then of course negative behaviors follow with that, or negative problem solving. And so as you practice the 5-10 principle every day and just make that part of your life, that what will happen is that the chemistry in your brain will change, and it actually will lessen the traumatic events that you may have experienced in your life. Now, trauma isn't just about a horrific event that happened in your life that was just devastating. Trauma can come in many forms, just like poverty does. Trauma can be a broken relationship. You may have had a broken relationship or lost a job or something happened, and you were traumatized by that. You just could not move forward. It left a scar. And so when you practice the 5-10 principle, all these beautiful chemicals start just going into your brain, and these endorphins and all these lovely feel-good chemicals, and it literally heals those scars. And so as you practice this, you'll notice that some of those events that were very traumatic for you, the pain is lessening, and the more you practice this, the more your brain can heal itself, so that you may still remember the event, but the emotion will not be attached to it, which puts us in the zone of learning. And then you can apply the zone of learning. You can say, wow, now that I'm not emotional about this, now that I've been healed up, I can look at these difficult times in my life through a different lens. And I realize that I can actually learn something I can take away. Maybe there was a behavior I did that was really wrong. And so I can make an adjustment in my own life so I can be better. And see, that's the growth mindset. We also, so you're now going to be able to apply the zone of learning, of course, the 1/8 inch principle. When you take these small steps, here's a very good example of the 1/8 inch principle. You decide to practice the 5-10 principle every day. And so it's one small adjustment. You make this adjustment and you say, I'm going to do it. It's small, takes 15 minutes out of your day tops. And then, of course, you can do it more often, which I would encourage you to. And because you'll reap the benefits from that. And so if you practice the 5-10 principle, that's a 1/8 inch adjustment. And that's what you want to do. And so now we're starting to learn how to apply these principles so that we can see the rewards in our life. So that's a quick review over what we learned yesterday. And we're now going to move into chapter 3, for healthy relationships.